All right. Welcome to Q&A with Tech Services. I'm Olivia Radcliffe, and I am here with the awesome, amazing Dan Yasenchak. Dan, do you want to share who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am the Director of Technical Services here at eBeam Services. So I have had the privilege to work for 20 something years. After you're at 20 years, it's a long time. 20 something years with very smart PhD people to people who just have really great ideas on qualifying new products, and that spans the wide range of what eBeam Services does. So we go from medical devices and polymer modification and everywhere in between, which includes a few diamonds.
A few diamonds. Love it. Okay, well, I mean, that leads into the first question we have today, which is, what are some of the most common challenges your clients face before coming to eBeam Services, and how do your solutions address those challenges? So I could see that on a number of wavelengths there. You've got, lots of answers.
Yeah, that's right. I could talk about that for an hour, but I hope somebody watches this.
We have 10 minutes, Dan.
Doesn't want to watch it for an hour. So I think always a very valuable part is just understanding what the technology is, how does it work, what's the scale of it, and that's where when we actually have customer visit where they can go ahead and tour a facility, a lot of times that's just very enlightening of, oh, this is how you actually do the process, and seeing it, and that takes away some of the oh, is it a bench scale size unit? No, it's not. It's 3 stories high. We're talking about 8.5 feet thick concrete in sections. This is massive unit. You don't really want to put one in your own facility unless you have a tremendous amount of product that you need to have processed. Okay, great. The other portion is, well, what can you do with electron beam? Meaning, I've had people, who say, well, you can only get through, a piece of paper, or can you even get through that piece of paper? And there are electron beams that are designed to only get through a piece of paper. That's not what we use. That's normally not what you're going to be using in industrial electron beam service, processing. So that is, in our world, we're using a 4.5 MeV accelerators for the most part. And that gets through about 2.5 centimeters of unit density material. We do 2-sided processing, so then that gets you, twice as much or a little bit more. So, okay, those are kind of 2 of the initial things that when we work with new clients, that it's, well, what does this look like? What can you do with it, sort of thing. Okay, then you get into much more specific. If you're in the medical world, you're in general trying to not have your actual product that you've spent lots of time and engineering on to get changed. You just want to go ahead and kill the bugs. Well, how do you do that? What are the materials that are compatible? And understanding some of those things, the AMI TIR 17 is a fantastic reference in that world. The other aspect of things there is how is it packaged? How can we get to there has to be a dose range. It's how do you get to a way in where you can have a reasonable dose range for your product? And that's certainly something that we work very specifically with you. If I can do one final portion of this answer, it would be in the material modification side, where what we're really trying to do in material modification is getting to a place where we can be productive. We want to be able to get to a commercialization of your product. So how do we do that? How do we go ahead and we can do initial testing on dog bones and plaques and the like, and we often need to. But what does production look like? And having some of those conversations up front can dispel, again, a lot of those kind of initial things that, well, what can you do with this electron beam? Well, if we have that really good conversation up front of, well, this product needs to be 60 inches wide. Well, the widest we can potentially handle if it's reel-to-reel product is 48-ish, inches. If it's cut sheets, then maybe we can do something. But having those conversations up front is just such a meaningful thing. And while it's not in production yet, it helps kind of frame some of the conversation and really get to a spot of understanding, so we can progress through some of the lesser hurdles that are manageable.
Mhm.
So that's, I think at least I didn't necessarily give, here are the specific problems people face, but those are the kind of commonalities that I think we see in most of our new customers.
Yeah. So kind of tacking on the end of that, going kind of a slightly different track with it. We see a lot of people converting from other sterilization methods or even other cross-linking methods, right? But speaking specifically
Yeah.
about sterilization,
Yeah.
why do they convert? What are they trying to solve there with that conversion?
That's a good question. Buy myself some time to think now. So there, again, there's a variety of different reasons. And there could always be a service level consideration of, you need special handling or dry ice processing or something like that, where there's unique need that is harder to work with certain suppliers. Okay, I'm going to kind of discount that a little bit. I think the main reason in the end, that people convert from ETO is very much a concern of regulatory requirements,
Mhm.
some of the complications that are needed by the suppliers to have better air handling, filtration, etc. That add cost, and just a concern of little compression of that modality. So if you can convert it to electron beam or radiation sterilization, that's the main other path, is do it. Or and that's where, if you can, I don't know, say you almost should, if there's a large number of materials, and it's, look, if your product is made for ETO and was designed for being ETO sterilized, then if you have, I believe the number was 8, if you have more than 8 different materials, likely it's not going to work with radiation processing, because
Mhm.
if it wasn't designed for radiation processing, you're likely to have a material or two that are incompatible with radiation, and you'll have to do a product redesign, which obviously gets far more complicated. But I say that from again, a general statement. It's 95% of the time, if you have more than 8 materials, it's really hard to convert. Now, again, like I said, if you're designing it for radiation processing, you can have that number of materials. We do see products come from gamma that tend to be the larger form, low density products. The easy example for me is always bottles,
Mhm.
because those are plastic and have big empty spaces in them, right? So that is something that is, I think, again, kind of, there's pressure in gamma, right now too, of cobalt, oh, can't even say it, cobalt 60 supply is a little bit tight at the moment. And with those considerations, I think there's definitely been a, well, can, again, my product work with e-beam? Well, what's a good fit? It's those lower density products. Once you get to that higher density, you're talking about powders, or, we've had many conversations of, people who are looking for, their pet bedding and things like that, that are in the 50-pound bags. And it's like, that's dense. It may work with some electron beams, not so much with e-beam services beams. Okay, that's not the fit. The lower density products, plastic, labware, that's really a great thing. And those things will convert at a lower price. And in the end, that's, there is a cost for changing, but it's those lower density products tend to be 25-50% less expensive from what we've seen, compared to some of the gamma pricing.
Okay. So you mentioned designing products for radiation processing. So obviously that's a really helpful step and the design process is to understand what your sterilization method's going to be, right? Is all hope lost if they didn't design it for radiation sterilization to begin with?
No, I mean, certainly not. Of course. There is still a real material compatibility, so that has to be considered. So one way or the other, that has to be, a consideration. It just means that there has to be more, I guess, what I'd call will to go ahead and go through that testing that's needed there. And depending on how complicated the device is, we certainly understand that can be, tens of thousands of dollars to go ahead and redo testing. So is there enough of a need? Is there enough of a, again, will to go ahead and make that change happen? If it's something small, no. Something minor, then no, maybe it's a great fit. But if something high volume, it makes it easier to justify, because that obviously can be, that cost can kind of be amortized there. I think the other side of it is, there can be some benefits if you're going to make a change with a product or a modification per se. I need to use maybe it's a different adhesive, or you need to change from your standard polypropylene you've been using to the radiation stable version. Some of those considerations that you can also normally change from your packaging from Tyvek to a more simple linear low density polyethylene bag sort of packaging. And again, there has to be a qualification process. We understand that. I'm not saying any of this is I can do this in my sleep, but it's certainly there's some upside that you can achieve there if you do go down that road. But I said it requires more effort, and you have to, again, have that will to make that change.
Yeah, and sometimes changes aren't even needed, right?
So, yeah, correct. We of course love those. But yeah, so we've had, I think, 2 or 3 this year that have come in that are like, oh well, this is really a great fit. Like, I'm almost surprised that you weren't already using radiation for this. This is such a good fit. The only thing that is kind of the tell is that it's in a Tyvek bag. But yeah, no, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So long story short, call you and you can help them figure it out if there's a change needed or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, one more question here. It kind of ties into this. Do you collaborate with clients to develop innovative solutions for their specific industry challenges and needs? And can you share an example? Do I need to talk for a little bit and let you figure it out?
I think we need to re-ask the question, because there's a lot to that.
Yeah. So really, it comes down to working with clients who maybe have specific industry challenges and needs, and what kind of solutions do you come up with? Are you able to kind of change and innovate some things to fit very specific industry challenges?
Yeah, no, I think that's a interesting question. I think my reason for kind of,
I think they must have a specific challenge they're looking for. So.
Yeah. Like, there's 2 different ways I could consider this question. One is, there are definitely certain industries which have approached us, certain specific steels, that I can think of that, were failing because of temperature considerations, that in certain geographic markets where they were selling that were hotter, they were getting too much flexibility ultimately in the seal. And so it was, well, can we help go ahead and solve that problem through cross-linking? And so there's things like that we have helped solve, where we have this flame test we have to overcome. Can you go ahead and cross-link this this part to go ahead and help us survive the flame test? Yes. And these are obviously given the examples of success, of course, but there are a number of things in that where there's companies who are looking to create a better product, or maybe having an issue with expanding in the case of the range and geography for what they're selling the product. have approached us and say, can you help us out? Is this a no fit? Can we go ahead and do that? And you go through the whole process of what you're wanting to do. Yeah, it sounds like you could really do that with cross-linking. Let's see if we can cross-link your product. Now, most of these have been polyethylene, or at least ethylene-based polymers that I've given examples here. But yeah, that's that part. Yes, I think when you get to some of the other, more specific, okay, we see a lot of wire and cable that we go ahead and irradiate. Sometimes there are specific needs in that industry that a company says, can you do this unique process? Can you help us, process something that isn't maybe your standard cable, has special jacketing on it that has a bit more sensitive to the handling process. Things that are a little bit outside the realm of normal, that E-beam services is, I say, our DNA is built to kind of solve problems and, figure out how can we go ahead and get a solution for you. So there's certainly things that are also very, like, I guess I'd say, specific in a given market that we irradiate a lot in that, yeah, we'll try it and, see if we can try solution A or B or C, or hopefully we don't have to get to D, but, sometimes you get to D. And, and the other part is we certainly understand things change, in what is maybe offered by suppliers, changes. And then you go through this whole other dynamic of, okay, with that change, how does it affect these other things? And, we want to be aware of that and help you, work through those problems. But again, it kind of goes to your first question of, what are things that, people run into? Well, understanding, helping us understand what your needs really are, what the product looks like, and how we can go ahead and process it. It kind of comes back to that simplicity again of, well, the more we communicate there at the front end, the better we can go ahead and create a plan.
Yeah, I love it. And I have seen you totally geek out over some new application stuff that's come in and trying to figure out all those different problems. So
I love my job. I've been here for 20 whatever years, and yes, I truly appreciate working with. Like I said, a lot of times it's very practical. The production folks who are they're trying to get things done and say we are having this problem. To like I said, the PhDs who have some brilliant new idea, and I'm just like. Those brilliant ideas come from both directions, and I love the experience with kind of both levels of thinking, and yes, it's fun.
So there, you heard it. If you have something innovative you need to talk to someone about, call Dan because he will totally love to help you with that. So
I would.
All right. So that is it for this Q&A with Tech Services. Any last minute bits of wisdom you want to add in there, Dan?
Just again, share what you have. The more open you are, the less we assume about each other, the better we'll be. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, perfect. No assumptions. All right. Well, if you have a question you want to have answered on a Q&A with Tech Services, you can go ahead and email it to ebeam@ebeamservices.com or submit it in a contact form on the website ebeamservices.com. And that's also where you can go if you want to get some help or talk to Dan or have some questions you want to get answered just directly from him. So, all right, Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.